And hello again. Continuing right on with video number 3 here. My top 10 characters I'm positive are making it in. Simply because all the pieces are there for it to happen. And there have been more than a couple of signs doing so. So these were characters I was like, I want to see them, and I was like, oh, they're going to be in. So these, like I ended up separating the top 10 characters I want to see in from characters I expect to see in. So number 10 characters from least likely of this 10, the least likely to most likely. Number 10, Dylan from the Rolling Western game. Since he's been showing up, he was already assist trophy in the last game, and he's just gotten a third game on the 3DS. So that's apparently a series that's doing well enough that Nintendo was continuing to put out. So I think it might be if it's a franchise they really want to push a little bit more, that'd be a really cool way to do it. Is to put him in Smash as a full on character, and then maybe transition him from being, especially since the 3DS is pretty much on its way out, give him his own full on game on the Switch, and spruce it up a little bit more. In the same vein, number 9, somebody I was expecting to show up in the last game of Smash Bros. 4. I'm honestly surprised he didn't. Shovel Knight. Uh, I was expecting when the ballot was going on that Shovel Knight and also Shantae, but Shantae was kind of a long shot. Um, she doesn't even have an amiibo. Shovel Knight has like 4 now, I think, and he's got several games. And clearly, the Shovel Knight game is very clearly emulating the NES era, specifically the Ducktales NES game. So I'm honestly just waiting for Shovel Knight to make an appearance. I mean, like for a character to actually get an amiibo. Well, then again, there's a Solaire amiibo for Dark Souls, but like he got 4 amiibo. He got like a triple pack, I think. But it's a fantastic it's a big name indie game character. So like I was like on my other list, I did list curly brace or quote from Cave Story, and I do believe that actually does they do have a game on the Switch, but and I think there's a new fighting game coming out that Curly Brace is a playable character in. But I think of the two, I think of all those games, I think Shovel Knight has the biggest chance of being in. I'm just saying, I'm positive he's in. It's with all the other guest characters that are in, and how big Nintendo went to get when Nintendo had the Game Grumps do a freaking commercial for the Shovel Knight amiibo. So come on, they're damn he's damn near in. He's damn near like impossible for him not to be in. Number 8, because this quote unquote character showed up in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, I'm saying Monster Hunter will most likely be in since Capcom is on a roll with Monster Hunter. They put Monster Hunter World, which is the best selling Monster Hunter game was Monster Hunter World on Xbox and PlayStation, selling like hotcakes. It's doing phenomenally well. They're finally bringing Monster Hunter Double Cross / Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate to the Nintendo Switch. So a good way to keep that ball rolling would be just announce Monster Hunter, have Monster Hunter as a character for Smash Brothers. I mean, there's so many ways that all 14 weapons can become moves in the move list. I think like your side smash and hold it down. That would be your over. Just whip out the great sword, and maybe even get the true star slash. Your up smash would be like the hammer swing. There's so many weapons that you could use. Or they could just use the Monster Hunter from Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite as a template and build off of that, since the move list would already be there. But it's mostly because Capcom is really in with Nintendo at this point. They've already got They had 2 characters in Smash so far. So if there's one series they really want to push to try to build in that market, since the Nintendo Switch has so many sales, it would most definitely be Monster Hunter. And who knows if Monster Hunter if the Monster Hunter buzz generates really well, we'll probably see more. We might even see Monster Hunter World in some way, shape, or form on the Switch, or they might port Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate to the 3DS. Even though, like, they might translate the Japanese version. We're only getting the Switch version, sadly. Number 7, they put him on. He's on the Switch already now. He was already eligible because he was on the Game Boy, but he's got his newest game, his newest collection, Crash Bandicoot. It's it's a prime time for him to show. It's prime time for him to show up. He's been one of those characters that people wanted to see in because back in the day, I mentioned in my previous video that if there was somebody that was Mr. Sony, it was probably Kratos. But back in the day, when Sony just started out, there was no doubt in anybody's mind Mr. Sony would have been Crash Bandicoot, if not Spyro. But I think Crash Bandicoot deserves it more. since he's an iconic platforming character. Unlike Mario and Sonic, Crash Bandicoot was a platformer that was born and bred in the 3D space. Mario and Sonic, for better or for worse, for better in Mario's case and worse for Sonic's case, were 2D platformers that transitioned to 3D. But Crash Bandicoot, born in the 3D space. So he's an iconic character. He's been around. He's on all the systems now. I think he kind of had a minor comeback on with the as a spin-off with was I think the Spyro's the Skylanders thing spun off from Spyro, and then he came back through that, and now he's on the three Insane Trilogy, 3 games in one. How many games are in that trilogy? 3 maybe. But he's too iconic a character for Nintendo to ignore, and I think Naughty Dog would be served well to have him in the game. It would also help transition him into getting a new Crash game, Crash 4, whatever that would be. You know, he's in Smash Bros. Oh, holy cow, this guy's in Smash. Like, I want to see him in a new game now, because that seems to be the best way to do it. Number 6, because now I have number 6 as Rayman because Ubisoft, because one, he already had a trophy in Smash Brothers, and 2, Ubisoft and Nintendo are pretty tightly knit. They've had a couple of games pretty much going back to the Wii U. So Ubisoft has pretty much always been in Nintendo's corner, for better or for worse, since the Wii U. So even though the Wii U kind of flopped, Ubisoft was still there, and Ubisoft was still making games. And then we had the Mario Rabbids crossover, and that's another reason why. Because I think I want, if there's going to be one character that comes from Ubisoft, I'm hoping it's going to be Rayman. He's a little bit more iconic. But I have the sneaking suspicion and the dread that it's going to be the Rabbids. And I could not finish that game because I cannot stand them. They're vapid, they're vexing, they're annoying, they're just the entire fucking time. They're dumb. It's just dumb. If you were a child and someone was jingling their keys in front of you, but they were banging those keys across your face, that's the Rabbids. That's what they are. And it never stops. And I could have maybe stomached the game if I could have taken them off my team. They would have been fine as enemies, because then I'd be beating them up. But you have to have at least one of those stupid Rabbids on your team at all times, and that took me out of the game. I cannot fucking stand those things. They're worse than minions. I can't stand the minions either, but at least the minions say things that sound kind of like English. They kind of do speak. But the Rabbids, it's just noise. Fucking noise. I fucking hate them. So I'm hoping it's Rayman, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up being the Rabbids instead. Especially since it'd be something stupid like Rabbid Peach or Rabbid Luigi or something stupid like that. Oh my god. Oh god. I hope not. But since I've said it out loud, it's probably gonna happen. The number 5. These are characters, especially because these next 5 characters. Number 5, Dark Samus. Now, I've stated multiple occasions that I've kind of had a love-hate relationship with the Metroid Prime series, but with Metroid Prime 4 down the line, and, Samus Returns, there is a renewed interest in Metroid, and Nintendo is going to want to start building up hype for that. Especially since I think Metroid Returns didn't sell as hot as they wanted it to, but it's on a 3DS when the freaking Switch is out, so you finally put the game out on a system that's kind of dying. I think that would have been something that should have been released on both systems, honestly. But the Metroid series needs another series, and there needs to be more characters representative of that series, considering how long it's been with Nintendo. And I don't think Ridley is doable, because Ridley just works too well as a boss character, and they would have to shrink him down so much that he would be honestly unrecognizable. To be fair, Bowser's size varies from game to game, and that's a canon thing. But Ridley's size has been fairly consistent. The other thing is, Nintendo loves its dark characters. Dark Link, Dark Pit. Why not just finish off that Holy Trinity and put Dark Samus in? She'd also have unique moves. Like, right now, the only other Metroid character we have is Zero Suit Samus, so you'll have one character take up 2 slots, so why the heck not? Dark Samus is technically another. Dark Samus is technically is the Metroid Prime. It is a great series. It's just not a great Metroid series in my personal opinion, because of what I expect a Metroid game to be. It should be fast. It should be somewhat fast-paced exploration, but it's kind of slow gunning. but the atmosphere of the game is phenomenal. But Dark Samus, because Dark Samus is kind of a recurring villain character, it most likely will be a recurring villain character. It might be a central villain character in Metroid Prime 4 when it comes out, and we'll probably find out more about that at E3 in 2 days. But I think again that would be a great way to lead up to her. Number 4, returning veteran, Solid Snake. Now I'm saying he's going to be in. Why do I think he's going to be in? Because one, people want him to be in. Even though he might not show up initially, he might not be somebody that's there from the get-go. He might be DLC down the line because people wanted him. I mean, we got Mewtwo back. We got Mewtwo, Lucas, and Roy back as veterans. So they wouldn't have to really create a new move list for him. They would just have to bring him back. Especially because Konami is really in the shits. They've screwed up everything they possibly could have from especially on the Metal Gear front, and then Metal Gear Survive. So it reminds me very much of the position Capcom was in back when Smash Bros. 4 was in development. So what did they do? They allowed Mega Man to come in, and Mega Man was handled beautifully, and people were really, really happy to see Mega Man in. They were really happy to see Mega Man. So especially because Konami has really screwed up, especially with regards to Metal Gear, that would probably be a really good way for them. It would probably be the only way for them to ingratiate themselves to the fans again, because no game they put out under the Metal Gear name will ever work anymore, because they did that thing with Metal Gear Survive, and they screwed Hideo Kojima so bad. So I think the only first step they've got left is to allow Nintendo to put Solid Snake back in Smash Brothers. That would one, be a good PR move for them, and two, give the Metal Gear series back some of its power, some of the name brand, since it's been the name brand recognition and its faith in the brand since Konami utterly destroyed it. All right, number 3, another returning veteran, Wolf O'Donnell. Not that because I particularly like the character. I mean, I really dislike clones especially, but a lot of people want him back. A lot of people, and it's another thing that I'll point out again, people hate clones, but they want Wolf O'Donnell back. And he's a clone. He's a clone of a clone. He's a clone of freaking Falco, who's a clone of freaking of Fox. But I would like to see Wolf in. I would like to see him reworked a little bit more strongly. They could probably do like they did with Roy when they brought him back for Smash Bros. 4. Rework him to be less of a clone and have more of his own set of moves. So also Star Fox, especially because Star Fox Zero was such a flop, that's another series that really needs to get back on the straight and narrow with its fan base. Since unless they want to go something crazy and put in like Mia or Faye from Star Fox 2, now that it's officially been released, but I seriously doubt that. They would have to find some way to put them back into the canon. But we're probably gonna end up with yet another Star Fox reboot that brings all of them together. Number 2, because she's I'm not a real fan of the character, but I'm surprised she hasn't been in yet. So this seems like the perfect time to bring her in, especially because the Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze came out on the Switch again. Dixie Kong. Now, she was a popular character. She was good enough. She was a popular character enough. She was a sidekick to Diddy in Donkey Kong Country 2, and then she became the lead character in Donkey Kong Country 3. Consistently shows up in Donkey Kong games thereafter, and Donkey Kong series, which is the actual progenitor of Nintendo. Donkey Kong is not a Mario side series. Mario is a Donkey Kong side series. We all got to remember that. The original game was Donkey Kong, and then Donkey Kong 2, and then Donkey Kong 3, Donkey Kong Jr. technically, and then Mario spun off into his own game series, and then Donkey Kong eventually started coming back into the fold. So that is a shared universe, so to speak. But I'm honestly just there's almost no way Dixie Kong's not going to be in, because the Donkey Kong games have been doing very, very well. Tropical Freeze was a really good game. Tracks sold really for a game that was on the Wii U. It sold really well and got really high praise. Great graphics, great gameplay, great soundtrack, and all that. And number 1, to the surprise of nobody, because it's a new IP that just launched, like basically from the same studio from same Splatoon. It's gonna be somebody from ARMS, and if it's gonna be anybody, it's gonna be Springman, since he's basically the mascot for that game. Honestly, because if there was one character I would like to see, it would probably be Mechanica, because I'm a big fan of the adventure type characters. But since she doesn't even have the actual arms gene, it doesn't make sense for a character representing that game to be that oddball. So if it would probably be either Springman or Ribbon Girl, but I'm leaning more towards Springman because he's basically, he's basically the mascot for the game. If I would like to see Min Min or Twintail, but honestly, it could actually just be Arms. Like since they all one of the reasons why I fell out of love with the game, even though I like the soundtrack and the characters and everything, the gameplay itself just wasn't that deep. Is because there really doesn't feel like there's much difference between the characters, except for maybe Master Mummy, because of his no flinching. But even if you because any character can equip any arms, there aren't arms that are set specifically for characters, which I think was a mistake. Like only certain arms, like the big arms, should have been for the big characters. It should have been something that only they could use, something that separates the characters. That's one of the reasons why games like Street Fighter, where your big characters have their own big moves, as opposed to Mortal Kombat, where everybody has the same move set. Like arms just didn't really do it for me. But it could be that could actually be a really good way to do it. Is that it's like the arms characters could just be one slot, and it could just be Springman is player 1, Ribbon Girl is player 2, Min Min is player 3, etc., etc., etc. The only ones I don't think that would work are Master Mummy and Mechanica. Because Master Mummy, Mechanica, and probably Bite and Bark, because they have a gimmick that's that's unique to them, that doesn't translate well to everybody else. But I'm sure you can probably have Ninjara as well too. But I don't think they're gonna have more than one character from Arms, but they're definitely gonna have at least one character, and that's going to be Springman. So that's my top 10 characters I'm positive for making it in. My next video are my top 10 characters I want to be in that have a chance, but that have some chance, but I'm not holding my breath. But I really, 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 these are the characters I really want personally to be into the game. So see you in the next video.